This is Yaira #2. Now, I am the Rippaverse guy, so of course I've read and reviewed Yaira #1. And when I did my Yaira #1 review, I gave it absolute praises. Really loved that book, and I have stood by it being my favorite Rippaverse book. So, of course, really excited to get this second issue. This is, of course, cover A by Kanan White. And I have to say, the Saskas and Deborah Karita have really lived up to I would say, I'm not sure if legacy is the right word, but what they established in Yaira #1, they've picked up and continued in Yaira #2, and they've done a really good job of it. So, of course, you've got Jen and Sylvia Saska as the writers. Deborah Karita is the artist, the penciler, basically, and you've got Thiago Gnomes and 137 Studios doing the inks on this. Jay Brown is the colorist, and of course, Invisible Art Studio is the letterer, as they basically have been for every Rippaverse book starting, I believe, sometime after even Alpha Core. But this art is absolutely fantastic. Deborah Karita is such a fantastic artist, and you've got really not too many page spreads. You've got more art like this, where it's panels and more sequential art. But the character designs are absolutely fantastic. I love Yaira's clothing choices, or I should say her wardrobe, as Dr. Sally Rodell, especially in some of these later scenes. These are very, very nicely, very much accentuate the form that she has. Now, in terms of the writing, the Saskas did a really good job in continuing the story of Yaira. But some of the pacing in this isn't as tight, and some of the dialogue is a bit awkward. So I'll give an example if I can find it. I believe it would be it'd be around here, where Ingrid tells Stefania that she has no self-discipline. It should be self-control or just discipline. So there's some stuff like that that's kind of like it doesn't read as well as it could, but everything else is mostly pretty good. And this does have a pretty good continuation, or not continuation, but this does have flashbacks. So you've got this new character introduced. This is probably one of the only few spreads in there. It's mostly going to be art like this, and it all looks fantastic. But you've got a new character introduced. This is Yeshua. You can see actually have the collector, or the slab of cover B, and you've got Yeshua, who is an old friend. So Yaira is definitely a race of aliens, and you see, flip right to here, you've got Yeshua here is a friend of Yaira's. It's implied that they're lovers. Again, you have a whole bunch of flashbacks that really tell the story, or give insights into the story between Yaira and Yeshua. And also we get a little bit of impetus into Neptune as well. So you see, you've got Yaira going underwater to get into Neptune's, or into the lost city of Atlantis, where they find Neptune, and they find his sons, and they find Neptune's wife as well. So there is certainly a lot of stuff going on in this book, and it being 56 pages, it doesn't necessarily give this like super detailed explanation of Atlantis. It's giving you insight into Atlantis and the story of Neptune and his wife and his sons, along with introducing Yaira's friend Yeshua, along with Yaira picking up the pieces from Yaira #1 with, you see, Magus Newmite, who comes closer to the end of this book. Yep, you see right here, Magus Newmite. Now, it's more implied that Magus Newmite is something that exists in the planes of her mind rather than in reality, because you see at the end of this book, again, this art is absolutely fantastic. And I guess sorry for not giving a spoiler warning, but this definitely is going into all the spoilers for this. But this is quite interesting that Yaira basically was dead, and now she comes back, and she's basically forced into having come back because she's in her mind fighting these void, I guess I would say void scarabs, or creatures like Magus Newmite. And again, none of the people see what she's doing, but she had to reveal herself. And we aren't going to have to wait long. We're getting Yaira free later this year, being 2025, in a fantastic piece by Jack Herbert. So Yaira number two, like I said, it's not as well paced as the first one because there's a lot of stuff that the Saskas are really working with in terms of picking up, like I said, Yaira picking up the pieces from the events of the first book, along with putting in some plot line, or along with there being a plot line with Stefania and the Alpha Core, having joined the Alpha Core at the end of Yaira number one, and of course she still has this desire for revenge, or she has this desire for revenge against Yaira, and the team of Alpha Core is trying to temper her fuse, or I guess temper her rage would be the better term, and they do seemingly fail because towards the end of this book, she's like, "I'm going to get revenge whether you like it or not." Now that is closer to the end. You see Stefania punches Ingrid, and then she just flies off because she is really angry. So that, I would say, plot line gets a bit lost, along with the flashbacks as well. So it doesn't feel as well paced because as Yaira number one, because Yaira number one had that 96 pages, and of course it was establishing the story of Yaira, along with it crossing over with Isom number one at that very beginning, because it starts with Yaira telling Isom to leave her alone after she dropped him on top of a car from skyscraper height. But the art in this book is fantastic. The story does make sense, and of course, even though there is a lot in this story, it is a really good continuation of everything that made the Yaira series as fantastic as it was in that first issue. And it really does end on a cliffhanger and gives you a lot to look forward to for the third issue. So the Saskas, Deborah Kurita, and everybody else involved with this book did an absolutely fantastic job. And I don't think I can get into it that much more without basically going over every page and talking about it. But like I said, the art is fantastic. I do love the lettering because the lettering goes from having like the regular style to seeing stuff like where you've got lettering for Magus Newmite, and you've even got lettering that goes between when you see like this otherworldly, like more Norse style of lettering as well. So Invisible Letters Studios does a really good job at using their lettering to differentiate between what characters are talking in the Yaira series especially. So it's all a really nice experience. Again, like I said, since this is 56 pages and since there is just so much to Yaira's story, I feel like some stuff gets lost in the cracks a little bit, and they're relying a little bit too heavily on that third issue and the future issues to clear things up. But what is here is fantastic, and it certainly is worth your buy-in. So if you're at all interested in Yaira, I would recommend reading both Yaira 1 and 2, and then waiting patiently for Yaira number 3, like I am after reading this one, because this was an absolutely fantastic book. Like I said, writing is good, even though it could be a little bit stronger. Art is absolutely fantastic. And I did mention in the written review, if you've read that some of the action scenes do get a bit lost. And it's especially with the action scenes towards the, it's not towards the end. I guess it's more towards the end. But you've got some of the action scenes that do get like a little bit lost on you when they're fighting underwater in Atlantis. Those could have been rendered a little bit better, but what is here is an absolute feast for the eyes. It looks absolutely fantastic. Deborah Kurita has got a really good style, and everybody who's working on her art, whether it's the inkers, whether it's the letterers, whether it's the fantastic colorist and Jay Brown, do a really good job at accentuating the style that she's going for. And that really just ties the whole experience together. And with the Saskas having a lot that's going on with this book, but they're still tying it together into a storyline that makes a good amount of sense. And while it does end on a cliffhanger, it really does make it feel like it's a classic comic book and you just need that next issue to know what happens next. But that is my ramble on Yaira number 2. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, and hopefully you guys enjoy all the stuff I do related to the Rippaverse, especially Braxcast. But that's out of the scope of this interview. Yaira number 2 gets a hard recommendation from me. And like I said, Yaira number 1 is my favorite Rippaverse book, and this lives up to the hype that it established for me. And I don't think there's anything more I can say than that. So hopefully you guys enjoy this review. Joker is out.